Intro to inverses. So there's a lot of funny things about inverses. They're all very confusing. Oh, by the way, that's Richie. He's about to play the Wii. That's my brother. Also, this is me. Hi guys, how you doing? Yeah, I figured I'd put my face into there one of these days. So inverses is kind of confusing. Okay, so you have f of x, and that's all well and good. And we know a function is a way of getting from x to y. Okay, or x to f of x. Now inverse is the opposite. It's like saying, hey, we got from x to y. How do we get from y to x? Okay? So it really depends on this. It's like a backwards this. It's like whatever we do here, but we're doing it backwards. So I'll give you an example. If we have our function is y equals 2x plus 3. So I'm going to put an x, I'm going to put x in. I'm going to put a 1 as x. X equals 1. And I'm going to put it through this thing, and because our machine 2 times 1 plus 3, out comes a y equals 5. Now my question is, how do we get a y equals 5 into x equals 1? So we figure out how to do the inverse, okay? This is our one way. So our inverse, to figure out our inverse, what you need to know is you replace x and y. You swap them. Sorry, whoops. X equals 2y plus 3. Okay? Now, to make this function actually work, we need to make y the subject. So I'm going to bring the 3 over x minus 3 equals 2y, y equals x minus 3 on 2. So this is the inverse. This is the inverse of this. This is like going this way, and this is going backwards. So that means if we put a 5 into this, out should come a 1. So I'm going to do that. X equals 5. I'm going to stick it through this machine. So we put 5 minus 3 on 2. That equals 2 on 2. That equals 1. So wow, y equals 1. It's amazing. This one went 1 to 5. This turned 5 into 1. That's what an inverse is. Now that's all very complicated. Okay, all very complicated. So I just want to tell you what you need to know about inverses. You can learn about that stuff if you want to, actually. But f of x is our function. F minus 1 is the inverse. Should be and there. For f of x, f minus 1x is the inverse. Okay. Number 2. To figure out the inverse, equation, swap x and y. So like we did up here, I swapped x and y from y equals 2x plus 3 to x equals 2y plus 3, and then I rearranged it, and that's how you get the inverse. If you draw a graph, so here's our regular graph, okay? The inverse will be a reflection diagonally. The inverse is a diagonal reflection. And this line, you know, what's the diagonal? It's y equals x. Because what it does is swaps all the x for y's, and finally, it swaps x and y. Just like when we were trying to solve it. If this point was, what's the distance, 0, 3, then this point over here, our reflection would be 3, 0. As in the y value, which was 3, is now the x value, that's 3. And the y value that was 0 is now the x value, that's 0. Okay, and it does this every way along the way. So that's the quick intro to the inverses. I'll cover more later in the relevant chapters. So don't worry. Be happy. Be happy, guys. Okay. And I'll give you a bit of practice on this, I think. Cheers.